Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Brother Bear 2. This is the sequel, obviously, to Brother Bear. Came out in 2003. This one came out in 2006. Yeah, 2006 is an hour and 19 minutes long, and it is a Disney animated feature that's pretty much forgotten. No, I don't know if it's forgotten, but it's not. It's not a princess film, so it doesn't get the kind of recognition in the pantheon of Disney films, but it has a number of familiar voices that we've heard in other things before. Of course, Jim Cummings, of course, appears in this like everything else that Disney makes. But we got Mandy Moore in this, who would eventually, 4 years after this, be in the lead in Tangled. She'd be Rapunzel. And we got Patrick Dempsey as the main character, the Brother Bear. He's actually taking over for Joaquin Phoenix, who played the same character of Kenai. Yeah. He takes over for the role of Kenai from Joaquin Phoenix in the original film. Um, I got to admit to say right out that I did not seen Brother Bear or Brother Bear 2 before. So this is all new to me. And I realize, again, this is all random, so I don't get to choose what order these things show up in. So I kind of had to do a little research. I looked at a quick little summary of what the original film was about, so I could get a sense of how much of this was a continuation of the first film. I mean, obviously it's connected, but Nita, the character that Mandy Moore plays, was not in the original film. The first one was about a guy killing a bear, and as his punishment from the spirits, he gets turned into a bear. So he's a human who's turned into a bear. That's Kenai. And along the way, he befriends a number of other forest animals, as well as a little cub named Coda. So, played by Jeremy Suarez, who has come over from the first film as well. Speaking of voices that have come over from the first film, the greatest thing to me in this film, and I realize it's not a big deal for most other people, is the fact that it features Bob and Doug McKenzie. Okay, not Bob and Doug McKenzie. It has Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis and Bob. Yeah, Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. So Bob and Doug McKenzie. If you don't know who they are, yes, this is a VHS copy, but this is them from Strange Brew. They play the two Moose brothers, and they speak exactly like their characters from. Oh, why can't I say the name of the comedy troupe? I'm gonna kill. Oh, I'm so ticked off at myself that I do not recall the name of the comedy troupe. The Canadian comedy troupe. Come on. I figured it'd be on the VHS, but dang it, my brain just erased it. But I'm gonna think of it the second I stop doing this. But Bob and Doug McKenzie, they were kind of a big deal in the 1980s, and that was their movie Strange Brew, about two Canadian back bacon loving, hockey loving brothers, based on a sketch from. You're screaming at me right now if you know the answer, and it should be obvious, but. Anyway, they take those characters without calling them those characters. They use those voices in perfect casting. They're bumbling, not so bright Mises, and they're the comic relief. They're the Timon and Pumbaa of the Lion King of this movie series. So, yeah, they're the comic relief that you just go to when the lead characters get a little bit too serious. So yeah, that to me was the greatest thing about this movie. Just seeing those guys sort of reprise their roles as Bob and Doug McKenzie, even though they're Rut and Took, two very also Canadian type names. And speaking of which, this takes place in the Canadian wilds among Inuit people. In ancient times, I'm guessing. This is not modern times, because I think I saw some woolly mammoths in the early scenes of this thing. So you get the idea. This is pretty many thousands of years ago. and you get to we start on Kenai and Kota, and they're living their lives once again, following up with the first film. Apparently, Kenai did not change back into a human at the end of the first film. Spoiler, and they're living their lives as bears. So, I mean, and Kota was always a little bear, but Kenai has chosen the life of the bear in the wilderness, and they're best friends, they're buddies, they're brothers in a sense, and that's where the name comes from. Along with this, we get a little backstory about Kenai's childhood, where he had a best friend named Nita. They went everywhere. They did everything together. They were best buddies. But there was a little bit something more there as well. I think they were destined. Not I think, it's what the story is basically telling us. They were destined to be in love. And a very traumatic experience happened between the two of them when they were very little, which gets addressed later in the film, which I'm not going to tell you what that is. But we open up after we get to see, we catch up with Kenai and Kota. We end up going to a human village, and that confused me at first because I'm like, isn't this about bears? Is there humans in this one? Yes, there's humans, and there's a young woman named Nita, of course. That's the Mandy Moore character. We get to see she's all grown up. She's, well, maybe 20s or late teens. I have no idea, and she's about to be married, and she's being fawned over by her mother and aunt and everybody else, or all these. They're getting for her prepared for her wedding, and they hope the spirits bless it to a man that she barely knows, big hunky man who she barely knows, but something goes awry at the ceremony, and it turns out, oh well, it might not be in the cards for her to get married. She needs to settle some old business, and according to the shaman or Shiman or yeah, whatever, a wise woman played by Wanda Sykes. Speaking of which, some people, I don't know if this kind of movie would be made necessarily or cast necessarily the same way today as it was in 2006 or 2003, because there's a whole lot of white people and people of color playing the Inuit people. I think today they might have actually cast some people who were actually Inuit. Don't know. But yeah, it's well, I won't go into all that, but yeah, these days I think the goal would be a little bit different. But star power, we get Kathy Najimy, who else? Yeah, Andrea Martin, Catherine O'Hara, Wendy Malick. Michael Clark Duncan also comes over from the last film. He plays a bear. Tress McNeil. Yeah, so there's a lot of well-known names in this. Why can't I say Catherine O'Hara, Wendy Malick? Yeah, Catherine Jimmy. Okay, yeah, it's just a lot of known voices, I guess, playing these roles. You'll recognize them when you hear them. But yeah, so she's been given a quest to settle this how do you say it? Settles this long-standing connection she has with Kenai, who is now a bear. She knows he's a bear. Somehow she knows he's a bear. I don't know if she was in the first film. Again, somehow she knows he's a bear. Yeah, we get they go on an adventure together and discover a lot. And of course, it's also weirdly pointed out to us that it's mating season, and the mooses are trying to meet girl mooses, and the Kenai is helping them out, and then of course little Kota has no idea what's going on with the mating season, and he's like, girls, nah. Everybody else is like, girls, because he only hangs out with dudes, dude bears and dude mooses, mice, whatever. So yeah, it's you get that little conflict, that little struggle between Kota and Nita, as you notice Kenai's attentions are moving a little bit more towards Nita and becoming closer to her as they get to spend more time together. It's still a human bear relationship. So you got to figure, how's this gonna be a happy ending? She's not gonna marry a bear at the end, is she? Is she gonna marry a bear? So all that has to get figured out by the end, and you can kind of figure out where it's gonna go. It's not really surprising. It's which way it's gonna land, but it's still, for a while, if you think about it, there's just interspecies romance going on here. And it's not just Coda that's giving him the wary eye. Like, what are you guys doing? I don't understand. So there's a little bit of jealousy in Coda's part. So yeah, all this. I don't want to give away too much, but I mean, if you haven't seen it, this is actually I have to admit that I really liked it. It's funny. It's actually, for a sequel, it's actually well animated. I don't know if this was in theaters or not. I mean, there was always a thing where they put out the first film in theaters, and then the sequel goes right to video. I don't know if this was ever in theaters, but it has really good quality to it. It has a good quality animation. It doesn't seem like it was phoned in. It's the level of detail, the level of quality is right up there with anything that you'd get in a major motion picture release. So, hooray! Good. I mean, I like that. I mean, they dumped a whole lot of crap in the early 2000s. You know what I'm talking about. We've talked about this in other films, in other Disney Plus Everyday Challenge episodes, where they put a bunch of stuff out, sequels, to Bambi and Little Mermaid and all that stuff. It's just they skimped on the animation. In some cases, they skimped on the story, but some of them were good. I think Mulan 2 was all right. But yeah, in this case, the sequel is actually really good. From the look of it, the comedy, the voices, everything else, it's worth your time if you haven't seen it. I haven't. If you've seen the first one and you haven't seen this one, it's worth checking out. I'm going to actually recommend this. I did not expect much from this because, again, anytime these sequels show up, it's usually not great. Not great at all. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. And if you get a chance, check out Strange Brew, so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. And probably not on VHS. It's on DVD, or you can, stream it or something. It's on somewhere. You can buy it digitally. But if you want a reference sort of, if you're so young you don't know who Bob and Doug McKenzie are, the Great White North, yeah, you'll get an idea. If you like the Mooses, you'll want to check that out. But if you're young, you honestly might not find it funny. I have no idea, but it's funny for people my age. All right, let's pick tomorrow's episode.
95.
95. Okay, well, let's see. 95. Pretty low number. Oh, okay. Well, this is a series of shorts. I don't know what this is, but it's based on a regular series. I don't know if it's animated or not, but we'll find out, obviously, tomorrow. We're going to be watching Coop and Cammy Ask the World shorts. Coop and Cammy Ask the World shorts. That's what's coming up next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.